1. The child born with a blood clot in his palm, Temujin's orphanhood.
The legend of a child born in the ruthless steppes of Mongolia in 1162 was written in blood from his very first breath. According to legend, his father, Yasuge, named this child, who was born with a blood clot in his right palm, after a Tatar chief he had recently defeated, Temujin. However, his childhood would be short-lived. When he was just 9 years old, his father was poisoned to death by the Tatars. To retain power, his own tribe abandoned Temujin, his mother and his siblings, to die in the steppe in the middle of a harsh winter. He learned to survive by eating mice and roots, struggling with absolute solitude.
2. Deliverance from the wooden yoke, captivity and vengeance.
His youth was spent fleeing from his former tribe, the Taichud, who were hunting him. He was captured once and exhibited as a slave for months, with a wooden yoke, kangwe, around his neck. But Temujin was no ordinary captive. One night he managed to escape by striking down his guard with that heavy yoke. This escape was the first spark of his legend. He began to gather around him the outcast, yet most skilled warriors of the steppe, valuing only merit and loyalty, rather than lineage and status.
3. Blood brotherhood and shattered oaths, the war with Jamuka.
One of the most tragic chapters in Temujin's rise is his relationship with his childhood friend and Anda, blood brother, Jamuka. The two stood shoulder to shoulder and destroyed many enemies. However, while Temujin crushed the nobility and elevated common warriors, Jamuka defended the old Mongol aristocracy. This ideological division between the two blood brothers turned into a ruthless war. At the end of bloody, years-long struggles, Temujin emerged victorious. Jamuka consented to a noble death without the spilling of blood, and Temujin, in tears, had his closest friend executed by having his spine broken.
4. The lone banner of the steppe, Genghis Khan and the Great Kurultai.
By 1206, all the scattered and fierce Mongol and Turkic tribes, who had been slaughtering each other for centuries, were united under a single banner. At the Great Kurultai gathered on the banks of the Onan River, Temujin was bestowed the title Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. From nomads who had previously killed one another, he had forged the most disciplined, fastest, and deadliest war machine history had ever seen. The steppe was now too small for him.
5. The walls deemed indestructible, breaching the Great Wall of China and the Jin campaign.
Genghis Khan's eyes were set on the ancient and wealthy empires of the East. With his nomadic army lacking advanced siege weapons, he attacked China, the Jin dynasty. The Great Wall of China could not stop him. He bypassed it and breached its weak points. To conquer the cities with massive walls that stood in his way, he used psychological terror. He drove captured peasants toward the city walls as human shields and used starvation as a weapon. When Beijing, Zhongdu fell, the city burned for months, and its streets were filled with mountains of corpses.
6. The mistake that brought the world to its end, the Otrar tragedy and the apocalypse of the Khwarezmians.
Perhaps the greatest diplomatic catastrophe in history was the Khwarezmians, the most powerful state in the Islamic world at the time, accusing Genghis Khan's envoys of espionage and putting them to the sword. Upon learning that his envoys' faces had been branded, Genghis Khan transformed into a frenzied angel of vengeance. He descended upon Islamic lands with a massive army of approximately 200,000 men. The most brilliant centers of science and culture of that period, such as Samarkand, Bukhara, Merv, and Nishapur, were literally wiped off the map. By destroying dams, he left cities submerged. He was not an occupier, but a catastrophe that viewed himself as the scourge of God.
7. The Tangut curse and the emperor buried with his secrets.
Genghis Khan's final campaign was against the rebelling Tangut kingdom. In 1227, during this campaign, he fell from his horse and was severely injured, or, according to some sources, fell ill. Even on his deathbed, he ordered the complete destruction of the Tangut capital. As his body was secretly transported toward the heart of Mongolia, every human, every bird, and every animal that saw the funeral procession was put to the sword by the guards to protect the secret. Thousands of horses were driven over his grave to flatten the earth, and it is even said that a river was diverted to flow over it.